Hi everyone. So you all know I like to do my new moon videos after the new moon, and I'm sorry about the busyness of the background. I'm not at home right now, so I'm doing the best with what I can and keeping the volume ups of my voices. Blah blah blah. I'll see if I can have a setup that's a little less distracting in the background. But irrespective, we had a new moon in Pisces a few hours ago, and let's take the narrative from where we have been. We've talked about the fact that opportunities may have presented themselves that have a flavor or a sense of 2023 beginning in November, but particularly December. We may have had a sense of no progress or no action or waiting for information to emerge as this direction has been set, even information about potential obstacles to this direction between December 29th and January the 19th. But since January the 12th and January the 19th, particularly the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st of January, things started to move forward again. And by the middle of February, February 12th, 13th, the journey into 2023, the path into 2023 seems to have opened up. Now, this doesn't mean that it comes without challenges, and it doesn't mean that we're not carrying previous baggage with us. And indeed, this last week that we had, referring back to the last video I did, was an edgy week, which is a strange thing to happen when there's all this activity from November and December into the middle of February, and the moment you get on the proverbial plane or train or hit the banquet, there is a certain amount of tension in the air, with the Sun conjuncting Saturn and Mercury squaring the North Node. Now, these tensions have to do with lessons that are being brought to our attention in the Aquarius part of our chart. So where's Aquarius in your chart? What house does it sit in? And how does acting on and incorporating those lessons assist in leaning into the Taurus part of your chart, where we have the Uranus transit and we have eclipses through October of this year, and we have the universe or spirit is advising us to lean into and develop skills and attention into the Taurus part of our chart. So what are the lessons in the Aquarius part of it? So if you do not have your birth chart and you do not know where this sits, one of the things I would do is meditate on what came up for you last week. Because there's been so much support towards whatever's been building in November and particularly December and into February of this year, it may be that the tensions of last week really do feel like they are valuable and important and helpful lessons to give you a sense of what you need to incorporate in order to move forward. They could also have been twofold. One, what lessons do you need in order to lean into the Taurus part of your chart or wherever it is that you're headed that is specific to the way you are and the way you have been behaving, or what you need to learn about your behaviors and patterns in relationship to that Taurus part of the chart, but also lessons and developments and possible constraints or an awareness of constraints that have been brewing for the past couple of years around some form of restriction. So not only lessons around what needs to be left behind and the challenges that may have become visible and obvious in the first 3 weeks of January that have to do with old baggage, but also lessons related to where you find yourself in. So what if we say that, if we use that airplane analogy and now you find yourself on the airplane into 2023, what am I like on a flight? How am I towards flight attendants? What are my anxieties? Have I packed it? What am I like towards other passengers? How am I effective? Do I get in my own way? What is Saturn? Saturn wants us to be effective, and Saturn, remember, Saturn wants us to be responsible. And both from a communication perspective, what is being communicated to you and by you, and from an awareness of responsibility perspective towards yourself and therefore from there towards others, this last week that we're leaving behind may have provided valuable and grounding lessons, both with regard to dealing with past issues, but also with regard to how to navigate yourself and know yourself and repair yourself and pay attention to yourself in the environments that you're finding in now. This week and this new moon very much for me has a kind of a, in the tarot, the Six of Swords energy, where you are moving forward, but you are still, it's not like that February 12th, it's not like it cuts everything off. First and foremost, you're still carrying yourself. Second, whatever it is that has to be dealt with regard to whatever it was that had to be handled to allow you to avail of these opportunities that presented themselves in November, December are still present. They still have to be contended with. They still have to be dealt with. Boundaries still need to be drawn. But where you are and the lessons from last week still need to be incorporated. Now, the new moon itself is, from my perspective, unaspected, unless it is aspecting some natal planet in your chart. The nice thing about this new moon, as far as I'm concerned, is that it coincides, follows the day after the sun enters Pisces, or for some people, the same day that it's in the very first degree of Pisces. And so Pisces season, insofar as it's going to extend till, March 19th, 20th, 21st, or thereabouts when the sun enters Aries, and this new moon cycle are tied together. So it's a 4-week period of illumination, followed by, starting the beginning of March when Mercury enters Pisces, about 3 weeks or so of communication and acting and transacting in the Pisces part of the chart. Some of this may have to do with where Pisces sits in the chart and where does that relate to what you are learning and incorporating while you're on the plane or wherever you find yourself right now. And some of this could very well have to do with dealing with past issues in such a way that it allows you to get a sense of where spirit or the universe is moving you, what those perceived obstacles to that movement might be, and what you might need to do in order to manage and handle those, what you might need to release, and what you might need to capitalize on. Okay, but you are continuing to carry yourself. There are two aspects, two transits that are encoded in this new moon, and they both concern the planet Mercury in Aquarius, where some of the challenging transits were last week. One is that Mercury, after squaring the North Node in Taurus last week, tomorrow squares Uranus in Taurus. The second is that Mercury trines, an easier aspect, Mars in Gemini. So right off the boat, we may be called upon to be in effective communication, to receive communication and effective communication, to continue this push for authenticity and liberation. Authenticity in the Taurus part of our chart. Where's Taurus in your chart? What house does it occupy? And it is building on lessons from last week. Right now, Venus is entering a sign first, followed by the sun and the new moon occurring very close together, and Mercury follows later. So Venus comes in to smooth things out and lay a fertile ground, and we can feel it even with the tensions last week. They are protected for the most part. They are supported. Lessons are more freely available. Things may not crack and break so much as you fear, as much as there might be the potential for harmony and understanding. But with the sun and the new moon, awareness becomes activated, and then Mercury's entry after all this happens provides communication and as a basis to incorporate lessons and ideally build a solid platform of harmony to go along with it. As Mercury continues to do this in Aquarius, there's still something that may come up through tomorrow, day after, that requires you very much to pay attention to and remain humble to, because Saturn is still present in Aquarius. Lessons from last week, and to use communication as a way to build, to act responsibly, to continue to build for harmonious and authentic, whatever the spirit is trying to help you and get to do, try not to get in the way of it, and pay attention to the lessons from last week to build on it. Not only is this happening tomorrow, because it's encoded with the new moon, you might find that you're using the lessons from last week and this new moon as a platform for the rest of the next 4 weeks as well. Mercury trining Mars is really interesting. Mars now direct, been retrograde since October of last year till the middle of January. Mars now direct Mercury trines it. Is this a new opportunity? It's certainly nice to have this brewing at the same, you do have the potential to either, if something is not working out something new could present itself to either get you out of a pickle or a situation. It could be something new or separate or an exit strategy, but more importantly, it could also be that it provides a solution that comes from the Gemini part of the chart that supports the Taurus part of the chart. Because Mars is in Gemini, Uranus is in Taurus, and as Mercury squares Uranus and trines Gemini within a day of each other, there's the need to build on the lessons from last week and to know that there's a helpful hand from the Gemini part of the chart to help you come through to the other side. And this kind of activation, the new moon is in Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. Neptune is in Pisces itself, so Neptune is one of the final, not only one of the rulers of this new moon, but also one of the dispositors of this chart. Over the next 4 weeks, decisions around whether you're resisting or not, what needs to be released in order for you to, what is not for you in the Pisces part of your chart. Painful, challenging lessons, because we tend to want to hold on to things until we release them. The universe may know what needs to be released and what is an obstacle in your path and where you need to surrender on certain things. Jupiter currently in Aries, acting on those new beginnings in the Aries part of your chart. Aries ruled by Mars, Mars in Gemini, Gemini ruled by Mercury. Mercury, it's the same darn planets, Mercury in Aquarius. So here we have Saturn and Uranus sort of in Taurus. Bear with me here. Uranus in Taurus ruled by Venus in Aries. So you have the same darn planets kind of dispositing the chart. Neptune is one dispositor, and then between Jupiter, then more importantly Mars, more importantly Mercury, even more importantly Saturn and Uranus, and finally Venus coming back to Mars, form a kind of loop or conversation around this. So the Aquarius, Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini part of the chart, those 5 signs, somehow creating both the right kind of conflict and the right kind of pull to get you to continue evolving into 2023. The action is still very forward-looking. Remember that starting next week, we have 2 weeks that are very important to the South Node eclipse in Scorpio that started on October 25th. What is it that you need to release in the Scorpio part of your chart? October 25th, December 25th of last year, March the 5th of this year, and the lunar eclipse in Scorpio on May the 5th of this year. Over the next 2 weeks, you might get more clues about how to release the Scorpio part of the chart to continue to activate the Taurus part of your chart. So the energy of things brewing and escalating as we head to the next full moon in 2 weeks' time in Virgo. Very true, very present. Keep your wits about you. Keep the lessons from last week and an awareness of what still needs to be worked on in terms of past issues that may require releasing very much at the forefront over the next 4 weeks, but especially this coming week, especially the next few days. If last week made your butt hit the ground a little bit, or conflict is a really good word for last week, because when planets square each other, there's a square off. But in that square off, there's the opportunity to ensure that the faster moving planets do what they need to do to continue to release and profit, create profit or gain with the slower moving planets being in Taurus and the faster moving planets being in Aquarius. So continue to stay present to what needs to be acted on, what needs to be communicated to continue to release you into a more productive space this week. The Pisces part of the chart, even though this is a new moon, is increasingly, even into March, going to become more and more serious and responsible. On March the 7th, Saturn moves into Pisces for 2.5 years. So whatever this new moon is building in the Pisces part of your chart in terms of awareness, you might feel instinctively called upon to take action on a few things related to the Pisces part of your chart. Where does it sit? What house? And you might find as you head into March, you really need to take some action in terms of communicating with whoever is a stakeholder in that part of the chart to reach some new agreements to continue to allow you. And the agreements are going to be around constructive action related to acting responsibly and repair, and constructive action related to release. After these next two transits tomorrow, there are important transits. The next set of important transits are really in the beginning and the middle of March. When Mercury conjuncts Saturn in Aquarius, we're not done with the Aquarius lessons and the communications. And when the Sun and when the Sun conjuncts Neptune in the middle of March, as I'm thinking ahead. Yes, in the middle of March, on its way to move into Aries. So this is, bottom line, new moon in Pisces. After 3 weeks of Venus being in Pisces, we've been given a gentle landing into the Pisces part of the chart. We get to continue to repair and build on lessons from last week and lay the foundation for 2023, which got started in earnest since the middle of February, with the groundwork being laid, particularly in December. We have an awareness of obstacles to this path in the first 3 weeks of January. Last week, not the easiest of weeks. Things that still need to be put in place, lessons that still need to be incorporated, the importance of communication this week and even over the next 4 weeks to resolve and build and get you to a place where you can be functioning more effectively, not only in the new, but also when it comes to dealing with the old. The dealing with the old may require, as you head into March, greater release of those things that are no longer working for you. Next week and the week after, the week before and after, March the 5th, may well provide you further important clues with regard to what needs to be released in the Scorpio part of the chart. Some people may feel that Scorpio eclipse on May the 5th, the week before and after March the 5th. Just giving you a heads up there. It may lay the groundwork for greater forward movement and development. The plane that we're on may accelerate even more, but really important as you head into this new moon in Pisces, in the immediate arena, we are still tracking till March the 3rd, the Aquarius part of the chart and the lessons needed there and the bridge building that's needed there and the responsible actions that are needed there to release our development and our Taurus part of our chart. But this new moon becomes even more activated as you go into March, and the Mercury moves into Pisces then. And in March, you may find, until you hit Aries season, that the first 3 weeks of March, there is important and responsible communication that is needed to build a foundation for this 2023 that is unfolding in front of us, but also understand that based on the lessons that have become much clearer in the first 3 weeks of January, what it is that needs to be released. Thank you for your patience with all of this. Bottom line, for this week and this new moon cycle, the power to resolve issues lies with Mercury in Aquarius. Those are the two, that is the planet that is making the two important transits that this new moon encodes. And by virtue of dispositing Mars, which disposits one of the rulers of this new moon, Mercury holds the key, responsibility with Saturn, paying attention to the Taurus part of the chart. It just, I'm gonna stop repeating myself. The key here is in building on lessons and awareness of where harmony needs to be built last week. There is tension around these, something is not quite right, but remain solution focused, come from a place of humility, listen by all means, act responsibly towards yourself and through responsible communication then towards others, and you might find that you'll continue to build and take advantage of whatever it is that 2023 is trying to offer you. Okay, I will leave it at that. By all means, comment, like, share the video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, click on the bell icon on top, the wiggly part, so that you're notified when I do new videos. Thank you for your patience and your attention.